Hello, hello, test, test. Are we live? I have no idea because this is my first time doing this, so sorry if it's just still me setting up my camera. I gotta check in a minute to see if it actually is streaming. It'd be good if you could see what I'm doing. I'm trying to get you guys the best shot. Sorry about all this. Trying to set it up here. Okay. That should be in a good spot. Just check on YouTube if I'm actually streaming. That should be in a good spot. Yeah, I am. I can hear myself. Alright guys, so if you watch me on YouTube, obviously you know that I'm Will Robson. I'm the penciler and inker on Great Lakes Avengers. And right now, I've just started trying different streaming stuff. I've never used YouTube Stream. I just did a Periscope yesterday working on this. Let me get on my social medias and share what I'm doing. So give me a sec, sir. I'm just loading it all up. It's my first time. It's my first time, guys. Okay, so the video is live streaming, so that's good. Just trying to share it on all the different social medias, so give me a sec. If you hear me sniffing, I'm just getting over a cold as well. Almost done. Just posting, live streaming. Now inking! Exclamation point. Nearly done. Okay, so feel free to use the live chat to ask me any questions. I have my iPad now, so hopefully I can see whatever anybody's asking. Again, apologise for coughing and stuff. I'm just getting over a cold. So this is for Great Lakes Avengers issue 7. Issue 5 just came out yesterday. So I'm obviously ahead, which is good. It's always good to be ahead. Let's switch to 0.5. Oops, sorry, I hit the camera stand. So I'm using, right now, Unipin fine liners. Excuse me, Unipin fine liners. And I will also be using nibs, and this is a Maru nib, like so. And I'll be using, maybe, I might already be done with it, but a zebra brush pen. I probably should have cut my nails before this video as well. And I just use different stuff for whatever. For the small details, I like to use a nib. Sometimes I use this. It just depends on how I feel at the moment. So what I've done is I did the basic line art digitally, and I printed it out on a board, and now I'm adding the inks to it. So I basically pencil like this, you know, this flat line weight, and then I go in and add inks to add depth and etc, etc. And I'm working on my new artboard. I got this drafting table, which I really like. And yeah, so basically, I know I haven't made any YouTube videos in a while, but that's because I've been very busy. I don't think I've even talked really too much about it on my channel, but this time last year, I went to London Super Comic Con, and I went there because Marvel was doing a portfolio review. And obviously my biggest goal in comics was to break into Marvel Comics. So I went there with my sample pages of Todd, and I drew a Spider-Man pin-up, and I drew... Oh, I'm sorry. And this is going to be a really gross playback, I already know that. All the sniffing and coughing and stuff. Not the nicest. So apologies again. But yeah, I went to this Comic-Con, I had my samples, and basically they were there for 2 days. It was C.B. Cebulski and Heather Antos. Oh, sorry. Sounds like I'm doing cocaine back here. And what you did was you printed out your portfolio, and I printed it into A4 because they like the smaller size. So you print that out, and then you hand it in, and all of them get put into this giant bucket. And I have no idea how many people submitted their stuff. I think it was like something crazy, like 500 in the end, because it's obviously super rare to have Marvel's presence in England anyway. You know, usually to get a portfolio review or be seen by them, you need to travel to the American shows, especially New York Comic Con, because that's their home base, because they're all based in New York, so there's always portfolio reviews going on there. Anyway, so I brought my samples, and I brought pencils and inks, and I put them next to each other, so that way they could compare what my pencils look like compared to my inks. You know, because some people are like, hey, you're a great penciler, but you're a really crap inker, so we're going to hire you to do pencils. Oh, sorry, someone asked a question. What was the first Marvel work work Marvel gave to me. Well, I guess this story will lead into that. So I just realised the chat was down there. So at this portfolio review, I handed in my portfolio, and you had to wait to hear when or if you were going to be called back. So what would happen is if you didn't get called back, your portfolio would just be thrown away. And I was obviously super nervous about this. And to put you in the mindset where I had been working in independent comics for 4 years, and I was getting employers, or I don't know what the word is, my bosses, because they're making indie comics. You're obviously not gonna have a massive budget like a real company, so I would have to take on 3 or 4 books at once just to balance my books. And I was earning about 11 grand a year, so it was way less than minimum wage. But I did it because I wanted to do it, so I spent the maximum amount of time really honing down and studying my craft so that I could break in easier. And I was young as well, so that helped too, because I started like right after uni. So at that point I was living on this farm with my brother, which I know sounds weird, but we were living at this place because some family friends needed someone to live there just in case there was any squatters that came, because they did not live in that area. So obviously we lived there rent free, which was awesome and it was great, but sadly someone had bought the property and we were having to move out. And at that point I was going to have to move in with my girlfriend at the time, who's obviously still my girlfriend. She's my fiancée now, actually. She was still at university and I was 24 at the time. And the thought of being 24 and moving into my girlfriend's university home, where she lived with 4 other girls, was just an absolute dread of a nightmare. Only because it was just like, I really felt like I was about to hit rock bottom. I've been chasing this dream and it hadn't come to fruition yet, and it was getting a bit late in the game. Like, I really had to start making money and I had to start making a future, otherwise I'd be screwed. So I was really nervous because, like, obviously I still wanted to do this, but you never know what people are going to say. So my mindset was, right, Marvel's going to be at this Comic-Con. This is the be-all end-all for me. If they say yes, then great, my career starts. If they say no, I'm going to have to knuckle down and find a real job. And that was just legitimate. Like, I was like, this is what I'm going to have to do. It was the last straw. And I talked to my girlfriend about this and she agreed, because obviously she wanted to, when she ended university, she wanted us to, start making a life together. As did I. So at the portfolio, you were waiting in agony to see if you were going to get a call back. And because you had no idea, so there was a bunch of us and we were just waiting near the booth, and then CB came and he went behind a literal curtain to look over portfolios, and I found out a way where I could stand in the back and I could see what the portfolios they were looking at, but I have terrible eyesight, so I had no idea which ones they were putting into like the yes or no pile. And then people started getting called, and there was loads of people around me. I think one person next to me, they got called up, and then that was it. They were like, oh, we're done. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, I'm sorry. And I was like, oh man. And this is when I felt super defeated, because obviously I'd put my all into trying to break in to Marvel, and I was like, man, if they don't like my stuff now, then... And I thought my stuff was pretty good at the time, definitely good enough to work for Marvel. And I was like, my work's been the best it's ever looked, and I put my all into it. If they don't like it now, then I have to, get serious about life. But luckily, I suddenly randomly got a call from the guy, and I was like, I thought you said you were done. He's like, oh, that was the morning shift. We still have the afternoon shift of people. And he's like, you're going to meet with CB Sobolski at 5 o'clock. And at this time, it was like 1 in the afternoon. So obviously, I was super nervous, and I went and had like a couple drinks because I was really nervous. And another one of my friends, he got through as well, and he was super excited, and he went and had his review, and he's like, wow, it went amazing, we're in talks to do sample pages, this, that, and the other. Like, I can't wait to get started. And I was like, that's great. I hope I get the same thing. And I took everything with a pinch of salt, because I've spoken with DC, IDW, tons of different companies. I've done sample pages for loads of different companies before, and they've never gone anywhere. So I knew this game. Like, this game was, if you want, don't think that what you're doing is going to be in. Like, I've drawn like 5 Batman sample pages, and I was nearly got the job drawing this Batman book like 3 years ago, but it never worked out. Anyway, so I had my portfolio review with CB Sapolsky, and he was like the nicest guy in the world. Like, he could have, in the position that he's in, he could have been, a nasty person, but you could just tell that he loves comics, the medium, and obviously he's extremely smart at what he does. So he said, I like this, and this about your work. I like he's like, especially the way you draw hair and hands, which I took as a huge compliment, because sorry, hair and hands is what I always struggled with. So I really knuckled down trying to improve that, and it was good that he saw that. And it was funny because he even pointed to a specific hand on one of my sample pages, and the night before, my brother was like, and we spoke for like 15 to 20 minutes. Like, it was quite a long time chatting, and he was just nice, and he's like, right, so what we're going to do now is, there's no definite, but I'm going to ask you to email me. Here's my email. Email me on Wednesday. At the time, this was Saturday. He's like, I'll be back in the States then, and I'll connect you to Ricky Purden, who is the talent manager at Marvel, and he'll send you a sample script, and we'll go from there. So the same news was given to my friend, and he was really excited about it. And I was excited too, but again, like I said, pinch of salt. I've been there plenty of times to know that this is not like, and they're definitely going to hire you on the spot. Like, even I've heard interviews with CB where he said, I've only hired someone right on the spot to draw something twice over my 15 years at Marvel Comics. And this guy sees portfolios probably every couple of weekends. So I went back, and at that point we were moving out, so I temporarily was moving into my grandmother's for a month as a layover, because I didn't want to move straight to my girlfriend's place, and it was all up in the air what was going on. And at the same time, I used to edit videos for this YouTube channel called Yobscast, because I studied film, and I applied for it, and I got a job there. And at the same time, they contacted me again, being like, hey, we're interested in hiring you back, like, more in a full-time position to edit. And that was like, okay, well, that's great. And I was like, I can, like, 10 minutes. And I waited until I knew it was, like, because they sent out a bunch of different scripts. But I heard what Ricky likes to do is he likes to, if he sees something, so I don't know why I got the Spider-Gwen specifically, but I really enjoyed drawing it. And so it was 5 pages long. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit. It was 5 pages long, and I wanted to show that I was really committed to working for them. So I busted out these that script in like a week, and I was very meticulous about getting all on pencils and inks as well. And I sent it back to him, and he said, "This is great, thanks. I'll send you notes sometime." And that was like, crap. Because I knew at that point, and I've heard this a million times before, like, thanks for sending this in. Don't call us, we'll call you. So it was about a month later when I finally heard back from him. And it said on the thing, like, he sent me his notes and what he liked and what he didn't like about my samples. And that was it. And I was like, damn it. Like, I really thought, I was hoping, I put all my eggs into this basket, and it already seems that this dream is over. So then I got real with my life. Then I was like, okay, I need to start applying for jobs. At that time, my girlfriend's university was ending pretty soon, and we were obviously going to be out of a place to live that August. So I think her mum accepted us to live there. So I was going to move to Brighton, and I was going to quit drawing independent comics And I was going to finish up my responsibilities on the books that I already had, and then I was going to try and get a job as a bartender because I have an interest in making cocktails. And I was like, well, I'm going to pursue this. I'm young. Let me just do something fun for now. And the editing thing with Yogscast, that didn't work out in the end. So that was like another thing where I was like, well, that was my backup plan. So now I have like no plan. So I was honestly, I was pretty down in the dumps at that point. And it wasn't till late April, I think it was like April 21st or 27th, when I just woke up one morning and I randomly checked my emails, and there was this email from a guy called Jake Thomas and Kathleen Wineski. She's the assistant editor, he's the main editor. And it said Star-Lord in with a question mark over it. And I started actually like crying tears of joy. And my girlfriend was still asleep, and she woke up next to me like, what is going on? Like, who died? And I was like, it's happening. It's finally happening. Like, this is it. This is the moment. So, obviously, I responded, yes, of course I'm interested. Like, let's do this. And I had to wait for, obviously, America to wake up. And he was like, great. Fill out these forms, which is just a contract. And we need you to get started right away because you've got 15 pages to do, and the book's due in, I think at that time it was a month. And I'm a lot quicker now, but at that time I was like, oh my god, that's like a real busy turnaround. So I worked every single day, all day, trying to get this done. But I had so much fun drawing Star-Lord, and, you know, obviously everyone's super excited for you that your dreams, like, coming true. So to answer your question in a long way, Star-Lord was my first gig at Marvel. And I would happily go back to that universe. I really love Guardians of the Galaxy. And I loved the whole team I worked with. The writer was Sam Humphries as well. And I was like, oh my god, my first gig at Marvel, I'm working with like an amazing writer. This is pretty cool. So that ended, and they were like, thanks very much. Here's your paycheck. Good on you. See ya. And I was like, all right, well, I'm available if you guys need me for anything else. And they're like, we'll let you know. So I took that money that I earned from that book, and I said to my girlfriend, like, let's just get away. Let's go on holiday. So we booked a holiday to Turkey, and I was like, all right, we're going to have an 8-day holiday in Turkey, but on, like, the 5th day, I'm going to contact Marvel again, showing that I'm available for work. And, like, I knew it was going to be easy to contact people because now I'd already worked for the company. Like, it was easy to approach them and ask them for more work. So what I did was I enjoyed my holiday, and then on the 5th day I meticulously went through all the Marvel comics I owned, and I looked through all the ones that were coming out, and since I already know the algorithm for the Marvel emails, I figured out everybody's email address. Emailed every single editor working at Marvel, and I didn't make it like a chain email or anything, because they can definitely tell when you do chain emails. I made all of them, and I focused on books of theirs that they had edited that I'd already enjoyed. And sometimes it was easy because, I had already found that a lot of my favorite comics from the past, they had edited, so it was easy to have a jumping on point with that. So I emailed, I don't know how many editors there are. I think it's in the 30s or something like that, and that's including assistant editors as well. And Tos, who I work a lot with now, she's and we'll go from there. So that's great. I mean, honestly, when you get stuff like that because at that point I didn't feel like I was part of Marvel, because I was still working up to it. So that was good to hear. I got a response from a few other editors as well, saying keep in touch, and then one email I got back was from Tom Brevoort, who is, he's the executive editor that oversees every book at Marvel, and he's the Avengers editor, and he's like the vice president of Marvel Comics as well, I think. So he's pretty up there in the Marvel world. And he just said, I might have a project for you. And I was like, oh yeah? And he's like, yeah, we're relaunching Great Lakes Avengers. And I'm looking for an artist. Would you want to do a sample pack, which is in 3 days? Do you mind if I do a drawing of the characters? And he's like, yep, that's fine. So I sent pencils over of, when I got back, I was too silly, and they said they're going for a very serious, not serious, but like, treating Big Bertha is not just like a proper superhero on the team. So I fixed her and a couple other things, and I inked it up, and I didn't hear from him for like a week, and I just checked back in, being like, is everything good to go? And he's like, yeah, you're hired, here's the script. And it was that easy, just like, oh my god. Like, now I'm like working on a Marvel series on a #1 as well. And I got friends in the business that were like, no, that's pretty lucky, dude. Like, a lot of people in their first couple of years, they hop around doing variants. Like, you become like the reliable variant guy. I mean, it's very rare to just randomly get a job like that. So I took that to heart, and I busted my ass on Great Lakes Avengers, and I continue to bust my ass on it today, and hopefully it's going to bring me good things in the future. And I've been doing lots of variant covers for Deadpool and other stuff that I can't talk about because it's not been released yet. And even with other companies, I've been doing some variants and stuff. I'm going to take a quick break, but I am here. I should probably write a "be right back" sticky note for people that don't know that I'm gone. I'm back. I just wanted to. So if you guys got any more questions, there is the live chat there. I'm happy to answer anything. It's proper windy. Let me plug my phone back in. I want to do for a living. I'm self-taught. I went to film school, and after that I sat down, knuckled down, and taught myself to draw. So you don't have to go to school, but if you're going to go to any school to learn how to draw comics, the Cupid School is the school. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and obviously they train you in everything you need to know about getting good for that business. So that is definitely a good, viable option. I can't think of any other school that's more perfect than the Cupid School to learn how to make comics. I mean, I always wanted to go to that school. Your classes would be inking 101 and penciling 101. They bring in professionals all the time to, look over your work. And I think you even get chances to talk to editorial and stuff. And obviously there are success stories from the Cupid School of people that have got into the business. If you were here when I was telling my long story, still going to conventions and things is the best way to get your work out there, because then you can speak to the editors one-on-one. But I definitely do recommend, if that's something you're thinking about, that's a great thing to think about. So right now I'm just adding a bit of white. If people want to know, this is a Signo gel pen. It's great for doing that stuff. But yeah, I mean, if the Cupid School asked me to come and talk or something like that, or help out, I would definitely do it, because I definitely support that. It's pretty cool that there's a university dedicated to it. And I used to live in New Jersey when I lived in the States, and I think I actually lived pretty close to the school at the time, but my headset at that time was focused on wanting to be a film director, which I've definitely changed my mind on. Because I went to film school and I really wanted to be a director, but I didn't realize the director was just, the director. I wanted to control, and I made my final year film, and it was so expensive to make, little things like catering, paying for the food of the people that you work with. I was like, oh man, this is really expensive. But I was like, if I just knuckle down and learn how to draw, my budget is unlimited. My time is my budget. I mean, I guess I could get a little into that. So when I guess I'll get into this story. So when oh my god, sorry. So I went to film school, University of Kent in the UK when I moved back here. A comic book that had to do with advertising Scion cars. And they came to me because at that time I was drawing my independent book Dino Zombies, which is zombie dinosaurs, which one day I do want to pursue again because it was a fun book. Anyway, so I got into doing that, and it was a grind. I mean, I was penciling, inking, coloring, lettering, and doing all the graphic design and all the behind the scenes stuff of the advertisement and stuff, and I was getting paid absolute dirt for doing that. And I mean, it was cool. I got to go to New York Comic Con and launch that comic, but it was still for what I was getting paid, it was not worth it. I was doing a lot of work. But that was my first comic I did was Dino Zombies, and I did 2 issues of that. And at that time, they were 30 pages long, each issue, and some were 36 long. So I drew nearly 100 pages of Dino Zombies. So that was still the longest book I'd ever drawn, except for now Great Lakes Avengers, I've drawn more pages. And then I went to do Unit 5, which is the name of that Scion book. And I just hated it. I didn't like the people I was working with. They were very unprofessional. And I decided to leave that book. And then I was given more options where... John, I'm going to answer it in a bit. Sorry. You probably hear this all the time, but your journey has really inspired me to draw every day and be a comic artist. Oh, well, thank you, dude. That's awesome. Well, this talks about, from the similar point of view of what inspired me. So there was this show, and it's still going on. It's called Fat Man on Batman with Kevin Smith, who's the film director. And he started interviewing people that work in the comic industry. Oh, sorry, I should probably show what I'm inking. And there was this podcast. The first one they had was with Jim Lee, and I'm sure everyone watching this knows who that is. And he just went through his life story of how he broke into comics. And what really sort of hit home with me was just like, all right, well, I finished university, but I really wanted to pursue comics. So I said to my parents, if you let me do this, then I'll live at home with a 2-year plan to break in. And he started drawing every single day. He would wake up and get straight to the artboard, and he'd draw all day and into the night. And that's what I started doing. And the same thing Greg Capullo said. He said, I did the same thing. And then I read an interview with David Finch, and he said he did the same thing. So I was like, all right, so if you want to, it's the advice that people always ask, like, hey, how do I get better at drawing comics? It's like, well, you need to start drawing every day, all day. Like, there's no answers to your problems. You figure out those answers as you go along. Like, I still remember the time when it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was just drawing eyes and faces. And then I suddenly just drew an eye in a different way, and I was like, oh my god, I know how to draw an eye now. Like, something clicked to me where I was like, that's what you were doing wrong. You need to do it this way. That's the shape. And that was really exciting. So I bought Michael Hampton's Figure Drawing Design and Invention because I heard nothing but good things about that book. And what I would do is from 12 o'clock in the afternoon till about 4 o'clock in the morning, I was just studying that book. And I would not move to another chapter until I felt like I was comfortable in what I had learned. So, drawing shoulders, I would draw it over and over again. And usually it would take more than just a night, just continuously drawing it. It'd be like, okay, I understand the shape, I know how this connects to the body, and all this stuff. And I started to build confidence doing that. And, I did some, that sitting down and serious studying like that. I did that for all that whole summer. I did nothing but draw because I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. My friends lived far away, so it was just me in my parents' house. And I think my parents were worried about me at the time, but I knew I had to do this. I had to dedicate my life to this. And people were like, oh, you're young, you should be out having fun. But I was like, I'd rather do this while I'm young so that when I'm older I have the dream job that I want. So I did that, and then I met my now fiance, and I got a bit distracted, so I didn't work as hard, but I was still, I'm talking cutting 12 hours down to 6 hours a day. And I started getting more jobs. I started working on the Standard with Comics Tribe and doing other things with them. And then that led into this little Batman thing I did, which was not for DC. It was just a fan book for someone who hired me to do that. I did this book called Ghetto Dragon, which has never seen print, and that was a headache. And then I moved to doing this book called Meta Rising, which was fun because it was superheroes. And, I was drawing the Standard, but I hadn't really drawn any proper superhero type stuff, and that was great. And at the same time, I was working on this book called Todd, or Time of Death, which I really, really liked working on. And it's a shame because I never got to finish that book, and I feel guilty about that. But hopefully one day, we can get together and finish it when time allows it. So, I was working, as I said before in the beginning of the videos, I was like, right, I know at least I'm earning some money. I'm not earning nothing. I'm still working. It's just in small press. And, I was getting, I think my starting rate at that time was £20 a page. And I eventually got it to where I got it up to £50 or £55 a page. And that's because, I was constantly working, so my talent was getting better and better. And I did this until, I did this for a good 3 years. Yeah, 3 years of doing that, and, earning that crap amount of money. Because I just knew that's what you don't have to do it that way. I could have just made my own book and gone a real job, but I was like, I'd rather spend time where all my time is dedicated to drawing every day. That's all I wanted to do, because I was like, that's how I'll get better and better and better. If I had a real job and then I would come home and draw comics, I wouldn't be dedicating my whole time to creating art. And then obviously that led to another thing, Ministry of Normal with Dead Canary Comics, which is an awesome company, which that book's not even out yet, but that will be coming out. And it sort of just went from there. So you just gotta, if you want to work for, if you want to sit and draw Deadpool and live stream, then you just gotta put your whole life into it. And you'll discover real quick if you want to do this or not for a living, because a lot of people, they'll put their all into it and be like, man, this sucks. Like, I'm not having fun. This is loads of work. And it is loads of work. Like, my recent deadline on Great Lakes Avengers 6 was really tight, and I had to dedicate, all of my time to working on that. Weekends and late nights and early mornings, and it was tough, but, you get paid and you get exposure, and I'm drawing fucking Marvel Comics. It's the best. Excuse my language. Right, end of rant. Let me look at these questions. Can you give some tips on how to do right proportions? As when I draw, I'm happy with everything except I mess up the proportions. Well, if you look at figure drawing, design, and invention, they really break down portions really well in that. If you're having trouble with proportions, you're obviously struggling with structure in general, because there's landmarks, right? Like I can show on here, there's different landmarks. Like these points here on his pectorals down here, they connect to. So there's these things called landmarks, and figure drawing, design, invention goes over that really, really well. And there's landmarks like here as well. So like usually when I don't do it much anymore because I'm used to it, but like I draw like the little landmark dots to connect everything. And yeah, that's what you need to work on, is figuring out landmarks. Let's see. I've been doing 4 hours and saying just drawing eyes, noses, etc. I've actually been really enjoying the feeling when you realize you've improved just a tad. Oh, it's the best. And if you're just starting out learning how to draw and you dedicate like all your time to it, the speed and the satisfaction you get from picking things up is amazing. But again, my best advice is just get figure drawing, design, and invention, and do not move on to the next chapter. Read it in order, but do not move on to the next chapter until you truly think you've understood the lessons you've learned. Where if I said to you, okay, draw me the torso, you could draw it like exactly from your brain, from the lessons that you learned. Like that's what I did. I would only move on. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be where you're like, yeah, that's like, I understand it. I'm drawing in a 3-dimensional shape. Because obviously I'm still trying to learn anatomy and stuff today. Like the biggest thing is form. Like you got to learn form. Someone said, that's the thing I worked for quite a while in a car wash, and it was really hard but profitable, but I hated it and realized that I want to do the thing I love for a living. I mean, and that's fine. It's just your life situation. Like I was in a situation where I was fresh out of university. It wasn't like, I talked to my parents about it, and they accepted that this is what I wanted to do. So I was in a good situation. But when he was at university, he said this in many interviews, he'd wake up at around 5 o'clock, and he'd sort of exercise, and then he'd go to his classes, and then he would go to baseball practice because he was trying to be a baseball player. And then he was a janitor at the time, so he would go to his janitorial job, and that would end. Again, it's just like, that's why these people are successful, because there's just a certain mentality where it's like, I want to do this for a living, so I'm going to sacrifice sleep and everything else to really dedicate it to the craft. And that guy, he got over 300 rejection letters over his time trying to break in, so that's crazy dedication, because I had like 5 rejection letters and I was ready to give up. So that just shows the amount of dedication he had to being the best. There really is no excuse when it comes to anything that you want to do. You just got to go out and do it. It's I got this to do, I got that to do, but there's always time to do stuff. You just got to sacrifice some sleep. And I'm sacrificing sleep right now, that's for sure. I just bought an espresso machine though, which is awesome. And like, oh, I can't sleep. Man. So I don't know if you guys saw, but last night I live streamed on Periscope, spotting blacks on this, and I'm still deciding it gets uploaded directly to my YouTube, so I have more content to show. So I think this is what I'm going to stick to. Let's see what we got here. Did you draw it out of your head or with an example? This is all out of my head. You know, you have to do that to work in comics. So you know, I laid this all out digitally. And I did the wireframes digitally, and I printed it out, and now I'm doing the inks. So, yeah, it's all from my head. So, that was Willem Gall. Is that how you say your name? Sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. So, Alexander Fedotov. Sorry if I'm not saying your name right. How do you approach painting and colouring? What type of studies would you recommend to improve? Well, I'm not very good at colouring. I studied for colouring, honestly, Todd Knox colour style, and I just basically completely ripped that off with Copic markers and stuff like that. That's like what I really like that he does. So I can't really help you on that. Yes, espresso machine is my best friend, and it's delicious as well. It's like the nicest espresso I've ever had, and it was like. So a lot of you guys know from my other videos that I usually do everything digitally, but I've made the switch to a hybrid method of doing stuff traditionally as well. And honestly, the main reason I did that was for art sales, because I'd had a lot of people asking me about wanting to buy covers that I did and, you know, offering a real pretty penny for them. And I was like, I'm sorry, I did everything digitally. And I was like, man, I don't know when that's going to be out, but it should be out sometime soon. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do the wireframes, and then I'm just going to print it out, and I'm going to finish it. Because I know that's what Freddie Williams has been doing recently with his He-Man and Thundercats and Turtles and stuff. Like, he lays it out digitally, prints it out, and then finishes it traditionally. So I had a go at it, and I was pretty amazed at how similar it was to working digitally. And I was like, it's a bit slower, but if you're doing it where you're sort of investing in, right, you know, instead of just drawing a page and getting paid for it, this page I'm drawing could potentially make me a lot more money to fund, you know, my own comics and stuff down the line, then that's well worth it. So now I do that. And it's like really satisfying. Like now at my, like working digital, like you're staring at a screen all day, it can drive you a bit crazy and really hurt your eyes, and it's nice to just switch to. And I would do. Mill's been announced that he's going to be in Great Lakes Avengers. He's on the cover for. If it's not, I'm sure Tom Brevoort will email me with a stern fist. So Jan Gritzensko is saying, I feel like working traditionally just has more soul, even though working digitally really much more easier. It definitely does. I also like little things like seeing, like, I don't know if you can see it on here, but like all the brush strokes in the black and stuff. You can especially see it like on his legs. I love little stuff like that. And it's just cool to look at. Like I have a big to a 0.1 Unipin fine liner, which is just a bit thicker because I've got Mr. Immortal and Bertha in the foreground here, and I have Flatman moving like a snake because I thought that was a cool idea. So we get some more stuff here from Frosted Ice Heart. I just joined. I hope it's okay to ask, but I've been drawing for 2 years, and every now and then I feel like I need to restart on all the fundamentals in any perspective. Is that okay, or am I just slowing myself down by restarting? No, you have to. You have to go back. If you don't feel like you know it, you have to know it. You have to go back and learn it. Like, clearly the first time around that you did it, what it says that I'm like licensed to use Final Cut Pro, and I'm a basically like that, because I hadn't done it in a long time. So from Jan, sorry for asking too much. No, please ask as many questions as you like. I'm here for you guys. But how did you find your own unique art style and like settle with it? As when I started drawing, I had a huge influence from Jeff Smith, but I would delve deeper. But as I delved deeper and got in, I don't know if you're going to keep writing on that sentence. But basically, what am I saying? There's a video on my YouTube channel. Hang on, the continuation of the question here. As I delved deeper and got into comics and graphic novels, seeing Miller Lee's works and more, I can't stop feeling like I want like this, yet I draw in another style, and I kind of get frustrated with not being Danny Mickey did on Spawn. And I loved all the little tick and noodle lines, but I wasn't good at it. And it was frustrating me that I wasn't good at, like this here, I would put a million lines like rendering out so that, all of it looked good, shaded and everything like that. But I realized I wasn't good at it. And I stopped doing it. When I stopped doing it, that's when my art style really came. I sort of just worked to my strengths, which is solid foundation, and good line weights. And like this giant book, which is all Todd McFarlane and Spider-Man. And I was like, you know what? It's not the way McFarlane draws faces that is what I love about him. It's just like I love just the energy to everything and the panel layouts. Like that's what gets me excited about him. And I sent to Greg Capullo to the point where I was showing editors my work, and they were like, "We get it. You like Greg Capullo?" They're like, "We don't want somebody that draws just like, or does a bad impersonation of somebody else." So the big change for me with my style was I really fell in love with J. Scott Campbell and Todd Knock, which obviously they're both big influences from Art Adams, and that cartoony aspect that I chucked even more into my work, suddenly I started making my own style. And I also stopped, like, I really liked Greg Capullo's, so I used to try and draw just, like, that's how I studied, like, over the top. And, I have noticed, but there's other flares in it, like the eyes. Todd Knock draws hair, so and like little things, ear comes out of nowhere. It's not like I was like, oh, and now this is my art style. It was just suddenly like, oh, this is the way my art looks good. It's like you look at early McFarlane, you can clearly see. Does the stream keep crashing? Let me know if it keeps crashing. So I'll be streaming, just let everyone know, I'll be streaming for another hour. And then I'm going to take an hour break. I need to fix that. And just any more questions, just keep sending them along. In the meantime, last night I announced that I'm in the process of creating my own comic called Rotten Luck, and it's a 3-issue miniseries about two guys that are in a holding cell at the beginning of the zombie apocalypse, and they got to figure out a way to break out of there. And it doesn't help that on the other side of the bars are a bunch of zombies. And I was going to draw the book myself, but I just don't have the time, obviously, doing this. So I've been on the hunt for artists for a good while now, and I randomly came across there was a buddy of mine, Greg Menzie, who was my inking assistant on Star-Lord, and he posted this Kickstarter that he was a part of, and I was just looking. I always like looking through Kickstarters, and there was this one guy that was one of the artists on the Kickstarter, and his name is Marco McCagney. And I was really drawn to his artwork, and I found out that he's drawing Vamp Blade and Zombie Tramp. So I looked at all the samples, because he's very smart. He's doing what you have to do. You got to he has his own website with his portfolio. So, because I felt like an editor working at Marvel, because you need to have all your stuff up there. And so I found his artwork. I contacted him. Yeah. And now we're making this comic together. So he should be all done with the 3 issues in 6 months. The first issue I think he'll be done with in about a month from now. And then I'm going to get it coloured. I'm in process of hiring a colorist. I have this girl that I really like, who I've worked with before. So I'm going to hire her to do some samples over it, and then I'm going to letter it myself, because I know how to letter. And it's pretty cool, because it's I really want to get into the writing side of comics as well. I love to write. My brother's a really, really good comic book writer, and we like to work together on stuff, and I really want to, because he's making a comic as well. We're doing a zombie double feature. Here's this Dog of the Dead, which is about it's kind of like Homeward Bound, but in the zombie apocalypse. So it's the zombie apocalypse from the point of view of a dog. So that book will be coming out probably with Marco McCagney, as well as the art, after my one comes out. And it's just exciting. I really want to get into the writing world, and I want to bring that to Marvel and be like, look, here's a book that I wrote. Let me know what you think, and maybe I can write one of your books. And I have other contacts at other companies. I may bring it to Image as well. But at first I'm going to launch on the Kickstarter to get it out there and get it funded. And even if the Kickstarter is unsuccessful, then I'll just fund it myself. But yeah, it's exciting. Art of Curtis Sheldon says, it seems like everyone is doing zombie comics now. Yeah, but to be honest, I love the zombie genre, and I was reading Walking Dead before it was ever a TV show. I've been reading that book since 2006, and the zombie genre is my favorite genre in cinema. Day of the Dead is my favorite movie ever. And I think a lot of people do zombie stuff, but it's just not good. A lot of people just focus more on zombies and people running away from them than actually doing a definite story. So my story is that's the thing. My brother's I'm writing a story that's basically homeward bound, right? It's about a dog, and my story the theme that people don't just roll their eyes oh yeah, another zombie book. Could I do a video on comic book lettering? In and shape it up. It's pretty straightforward. And as long as you get the right font and you doing a good enough job, spare no expense. But really, like, the only zombie comic is, like, The Walking Dead. Like, I've read a few other zombie comics. And like I said, they're just not very good. They're mostly just, like, a gore fest. Where if you're going to do anything that's zombie, because that's not been done before. And has so many great references to other zombie movies. It's like I love that genre. It's not like I'm doing it because of recent successes. Like, it's kind of annoying that the first thing people would think of is like, I know what's bad about it and what tropes to avoid and what things to amplify. Right, Deadpool's getting pretty close to being done with inks. Meanwhile, when the girl is trapped in the house and all the zombies come in and then they surround it. Resident Evil 1 came out, and a buddy of mine, Jared, he was really into zombies as well. And it came from because it generally like scared me as a kid. Same as sharks scared me. I want to do a shark story one day. I saw Jaws when I was 4 years old, and that scarred me for life. But it makes me fascinated in sharks. But yeah, so I've always really loved that genre, especially the early Resident Evil games, and I've always wanted to do something in it. And I've actually had this story in mind since I was 12, which would be 2002, so before Walking Dead even came out. I was coming up with a story. At that time, I was super heavy into clay animation, and I was making a clay animation of Rotten Luck. And recently I've just said script for issue 1. I have 2 and 3 laid out, and honestly I got into the bathtub and I wrote and it looks pretty damn scary. Like the old school Resident Evils. Like, I just got a Wii, right? I know I'm a bit late to the game, but I just got a Wii for the first Umbrella Chronicles and the Dark Side Chronicles, because man, I love railgun shooters. And I was like, I never got to play those games. So I've ordered the gun stuff. I don't know what it is. I think it's... Honestly, that's the thing. And that's why my first comic I was doing was Dino Zombies. The Resident Evil just going around shooting zombies, because it's not going to take up too much of my time. Like, the Wii is like the perfect console for a professional artist, because you just hop in, you play a little game, and then you're done. It's like, I can't commit to like a big game. Like, I know later on this year, there's a new Red Dead Redemption coming out, and so I can take a week off and just like play the shit out of that game. And if there's any children watching, bunch of pages for Rotten Luck when I get them through. That'd be a good way to do it. Take a look at them there. As well, that's all my money's going to go. Icing on the cake. These little dots next you can see on the stream, just single line, and I just don't like the way that look. That's just my opinion as well. I mean, Art Adams is a legend. He knows what he's doing. I'm gonna unplug my phone charge and plug in my iPad, because that has where I'm seeing all your questions. Right, I'm going to move to a nib now, and I have to be... Oh, I've kind of Actually, I don't think I need to use a nib. I've kind of already nibbed out his head. Yeah, I don't need to use a nib. You know what though, using a nib has definitely taught me how to have more of a lighter touch with stuff. Oops. How's it going? Samif Arsh, I hope I said your name right. I'm terrible at pronouncing people's names. Thanks for following me on Instagram. I don't really use my Instagram too much because I kind of just use it to post my traditional art, and recently I've not been doing many commissions because I'm just so busy. The place I use the most for my social media is definitely Twitter, which is @RobsonInc. That's where you'll find me every single day posting something. I love drawing Flatman. He's awesome. It's where I feel the most comfortable. Plus your interactions, you know, you can have interactions with editors and all. Twitter. I posted something and it got retweeted, and then suddenly it was liked by an editor of DC Comics, and then that guy just started following me. So I followed him back and I took the initiative and I said, hey, and I knew who he was. I said, I really liked the books you're doing. Same thing what I did with Marvel, and I said, you know, anytime I can send a sample or anything, I'd be happy to do it. And then suddenly he was sending me samples to draw Batman. So Twitter is pretty amazing for that stuff. What I like to do is when stuff meets, I like it to go behind, and obviously whatever's in the foreground is going to be the thickest lines, so these guys are going to have very thick lines around them. It's really awesome. He's a super duper nice guy. I met him before at a con because I've expressed to him many times how much I love his artwork. Someone said it keeps buffering, and you're not the first person to say that, unless you were the one that said it. So this line I'm doing here is a little thicker because it's overlapping the other line. Move to this. These are going to be much thicker, and that's how you do it. Like whatever's like, obviously these guys are in super close up, so they're going to be very thick. And it does take time to realize how thick you should go. Like my inks used to be way thicker than this, and then at one point they were way too thin. You just have to learn over time what makes you feel comfortable. And it helps to look at your favorite artists and how they handle thickness of different lines. Sorry, I keep not looking where my camera is. Again, that line's thick because it's going over this line under here. I watched your How to Find Your Art Style video. I found it really helpful. Thanks. No worries. Yeah, that seems to be my most successful video on YouTube in terms of watches. I made that years ago. That's when I was first. You know, that was during the days when I was doing nothing, but drawing constantly. I mean, actually, I probably draw more now than I did back then. What are you talking about? You draw constantly now. It's just different. Because obviously I'm more comfortable with what I'm doing. But a lot of the stuff in that video is very true. Like I've said it before on this stream as well. Like, you got to find what you don't like about your favorite artists in order to find shading, rendering, taken in different ways. It's pretty cool how you see people's styles emerge, and then also you pick up a lot of stuff from yourself. Like, I used to do that, and then I was like, he'd send a video like, I do that because no one else does that, and that's like my thing, so I stopped doing it. So now I just go tick, tick, and there's no real need for it. I mean, it breaks up the shape of the nose. So if you go through any Great Lakes Avengers books, you'll see lots of nose ticks. Tick ticks. Something really therapeutic about traditionally inking stuff. Sorry, I have to crack my hands. Mistakes you've made. That's the end bit of his snake tail. So it pushes that shape back behind these shapes we created here. Flatman's kind of good at showing the, the planes. And on that note, I will be right back. back. I'm back, baby. Are we still streaming here? Hope so. Let me check if the stream is still going. Are we still streaming here? Yeah, you are. Right. Let's move in to these guys. Try and get a good view. Start doing some of Bertha's hair. And also little things, you see how this line's thinner than this line? It's because this line is further away from the light, that's why it's thicker. Okay. Then the lines around Deadpool, because she's closer to the way comics work. That's my mentality. Nothing new. Oh, what happened there? And it's all in one line, which is what I do on the computer because I can click undo. But I have no practice in doing that traditionally. I'm god awful at it, so. But you know what? Should we just try it out? Should we be adventurous? See, I've already messed up. I can't use brushes. That's okay, we'll just go over those lines with some white gel. Smooth them out. I think I can get away with using this for right now. You got to experiment. Like I said before about doing eyes differently that one time and then suddenly realizing like, oh, I can do eyes. You just got to experiment. I'm just going to... should hopefully be able to stream more. You guys hear that? It's very windy outside. My letterbox is just flapping back and forth. Io Mike, is how you say your name? Says, hey man, big fan of your work. Thanks, dude. If you want to ask me any questions, feel free to. I'm just here to answer questions from... Because it's, you know, with the way you use a brush, it's easier, or any tool, it's easier to keep, you know, turn the page. Like I generally like to stroke upwards, so I move the page around so that I can stroke upwards. You know what? This brush is actually working out pretty well. Any tips on becoming a freelance artist? You got to get some if you want to get into that line of work. But yeah, get some samples together, and then there's a website called zwol.org, which is zwol.org. And another good place is... oh, what's the name of it? Oh, I can't remember. Zwol... Comics Alliance, is it? It might be Comics Alliance. I'm not positive. Etc. Just make sure you know what you're signing up for. I recommend always... oh, sorry, I knocked the cat. And also attend as many Comic-Cons as you can. You know, go to those cons. Try and meet with editors. Same position you're in as well. And then... and again, as you can tell, I'm doing a thicker line on the bottom than on the top to show a difference in the light. Different planes of light that you've created. Yeah, it's little stuff like that. But also she's behind him now, so now I'm doing quite I want to separate them from each other. And I'm going to go in and tidy up these lines. These points in his hair are a bit more pointy instead of just ending on a bit of a dead line. Randomly, going back to the zombie stuff, there was one Resident Evil game that I never got to play. I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically Resident Evil Online for like PlayStation 2 for it to work, you know, for it to be viable. But I do wish I could still play that game. It's probably terrible, but it would have been cool. Also, a little tip as well. All these lines, like the thickness I'm making, let me show you on a line like this. Example here, like these lines here, I'm doing the line weights on the edge of the line. You see that? Not through the line, like on the edge, because that is adding the weight below. It would be it would become a funny shape. By doing it this way, it becomes a bit more solid. I don't know if that helps anybody, but I knew that when I sort of discovered that myself, I was like, ah. Let's use a 0.1 since this is just thicker. And now, you don't, for instance, like how thick these lines are, you'd never want to have a line this thick behind her, all of this. And and even in here, I'm going to tell you that certain objects are, tiny lines broken up inside. drawing Great Lakes Avengers, it's a team book, so I draw pretty much the same characters over when it's a small character. It's super duper windy out there. I do live by the seaside, so damn dope inks though. And then inking takes, like, how long do you think people are actually going to be looking? You're never even going to pay attention to it. Like, I just read the word balloons, and unless something's properly drawing my attention, it's kind of just background. Oh, sorry, was that not on camera? Pretty mindless stuff doing the, or I'm watching videos and stuff, because you just kind of just go on autopilot a bit, and or steady hand, and you just go into pilot mode. So this, I'm thinking of just creating my own website through like lakes. I only started doing traditional stuff on issue 6, so I want to buy printed versions of pages. I've sold that before. So I just take the page, I print it out. Nope, I need to do it here. And here. again, these inner hair, not making it as thick as his outer hair to show that and I'm gonna go